Hello everyone, welcome to the next session on ABAP on HANA. In the last class, we have discussed about concept of calculation views. We have seen how to also create a view proxy object to consume the HANA view in ABAP system. Towards the end of the class, we discussed the disadvantage of using such a HANA proxy view because you got to now synchronize the information model in HANA with the object view proxy object created in ABAP. And if these objects will go out of sync, you would have a strong chance that in your production you would face real issues. So one of the way to transport together these two things is ABAP HANA transport container. But still the problem remains same, that by any chance if your developer forget to include the objects of HANA as part of the same transport, it will lead to issues in the production and quality. So that was one motivation behind having a CDS view, wherein the corresponding HANA object gets created automatically once the view gets activated in the quality system. Okay, so that was one motivation of having CDS view. We have not talked about CDS view yet, but now we will bring back our focus again to our productive scenario, which is open item analysis scenario, which we had started with. The used case was with Mr. James, who is working as an account receivable accountant in the company. We have done the implementation by far for this scenario with the pure ABAP, as well as doing aggregate functions in ABAP. If you remember, once again, if I'll show you in the system the implementation which we have done, showing the results to us. So let me connect to my ABAP system. I will go to my ABAP system and show you this quickly in the system. So I will go to the system and just show you the program which we have written. Y demo open item analysis equal to, this was the program. If I press F8, it will show me the result. You can see this is the customer which has exceeded a predefined limit of 230 to 35 days, as well as a certain amount which I was expecting, and this customer would be relevant for uh, basically sending a reminder. Yeah, so this was one example which we saw it last time in the system using open item analysis. So now we will try to do a code push down using our information modeling into the HANA system and see how can we achieve the similar results. So you see there are a lot of complex operation which you're doing in ABAP, like currency conversion being the most time consuming operation. You are looping over the data, which means you're pulling the data from database uh, based on certain condition, and within this loop you are doing currency conversion of every single record. Yeah, which is pretty expensive in terms of database call. I think I have included this having clause condition which was causing some output distortion. Let me just remove and show you all the customers and then tagging for certain customers which exceeds the predefined limit asked by Mr. James. So Mr. James wanted you to tag the customers which have exceeded a predefined limit. So for example, a customer who have exceeded a minimum limit of, let's say, 320 average days for an invoice being open, and the amount is more than, let's say, 1 million. Yeah, so that's what I put it now here for number of average days and this, and those customers will be tagged. You can see here these customers are now tagged for sending the reminder. These could be the potential defaulters in the list, in my hit list of Mr. James. So how much time this report took is about 27 milliseconds when executing with open ABAP, open SQL statement. So let's see with the same used case, we will take it up and try to push down the calculation logic into the database layer using our information modeling in HANA, and see how much performance improvement do we get with that. Okay, so let's move on to that. We will go to again our HANA Studio, go to our package, which is sales package, and get started with our information modeling. So first I will start building the attribute view, which would calculate the details for me. Now, what is that a limitation you've learned in the past session for attribute view? Anybody? What is that attribute view is not good at as compared to analytical view? Or I would say, what is an analytical view is good at? Absolutely right answer, Shilpa. It's aggregates. Yeah. So you can see analytical views are good at in doing aggregates. So if you see one of the operation here doing aggregate is about calculating the total gross amount. Yeah. So this is an aggregation which we will do. So we will use attribute view to just calculate the average number of days. We will not use to calculate the gross amount because here we got to do some aggregation. Okay, that's why it makes sense to go with the gross amount aggregation with the analytical view rather than attribute view. So we will use attribute view with the limited functionality which just calculates the average number of days. So let's get started with the first attribute view for this scenario. So I will right click here on attribute view and then create a new attribute view for us. Okay, so let's create an attribute view, and I just put here the name of the attribute view is 80 open days. I just name it as open days only because attribute view not good at aggregates. Okay, aggregates means sum, mean, max, all that it's not good at. So just calculate the average number of days using this view. Click on finish. Let's start modeling this attribute view, and we will see it will give you a modeler once again, and then we will pick up the tables required for calculating the average number of open days in the data foundation. So let's quickly come to the data foundation layer, and we're going to drag and drop quickly the tables from our SAP A4H schema. So I go to A4H schema, go to the tables and apply a filter for SNWD to pull all the tables relevant for our EPM model, which all starts with SNWD star. Yeah. So I apply a filter SNWD underscore and just pull me the tables which starts with SNWD. So you know that it's all about analysis on invoices, how much uh, I'm owning from customer. That's what is all about. So we will be pulling the tables like invoice header, invoice items, as well as the business partner table, because we want the semantic information of business partners who have purchased the products from you, which is there in SNWD underscore BPA table, where you get this company name field to drive these values. So if you also again keep comparing it with ABAP output, you can see here we need company name, the business partner ID, the gross amount total, the currency code, the tagging, of course, and then average days. So tagging won't be a big challenge that can be done on a ABAP side, but we'll try to push down this calculation as well as the currency conversion calculation mainly to the database rather than pulling all the data from database. Okay, so let's do that. I come back here, go to data foundation. I'm just gonna drag and drop these tables from the table list. So I bring in my first master table, and you all know that calculation views, or sorry, attribute views are good at master table evolution. So ideally they are good at master table. We usually always put our dimensions over here, our always not our fact tables, but in this example I'm also including a fact table which is invoice table. So there's no hard and fast rule that you can't do that. So you can see I'm going to pull now this fact table which contains invoice data, so invoice header and invoice item. So all three tables let me be part of this data foundation over here, and then we are gonna now implement the join between them. Okay, so let's go ahead and implement a join between them. Okay, the third table didn't come. Let me try again. Okay, there you go, the third table also comes up finally. So all three tables have come up. Now just put the invoice item table in the center, because my information about product as well as my supplier who purchased this product is also there into it. Okay, so let's apply the join. So first the buyer, the business partner ID, we will be applying a join, that who has purchased this product from us. I think this we will keep it in the center, this keeps it on the right, and I can see there is this business partner GUID, with node key, and this client column, of course, you got to also join because there can be multiple client data in the tables. So we will just also join the client field, and then between these two we have the parent key joined with the node key. Let's define these joins. Somebody is saying something left to right. Yes, sorry, I should do left to right. The direction matters because based on that your cardinality will be defined, right? That's very important. Let me just kill them once again and join them once again. So this one I will look forward for an entry in right to left because this is my fact table and this is my lookup table, and then this buyer GUID it goes with the node key. Yeah, and ideally there will be n to 1 because for client it's 1 to 1, and for the buyer GUID relationship it's n to n. There will be multiple buyer values in my table, in my fact table invoice header, and corresponding to that there will be one business partner in the business partner table. I do this okay, and then of course once again left to right I can do this in this case. So there will be one-to-one relationship between the client. That's fine, but now you can have multiple items, line items in this, so it's 1 to n relationship. So you remember the direction, accordingly you can put the cardinality as well. You can validate the join. You can see referential join type is valid. Click on OK. So joins are now completed. Click on just save. I would recommend you to, before doing anything else, just activate this and quickly check the output if it is joining correctly things up or not. Okay, that's what my recommendation is. Okay, this is a warning message. It's a direct production system. That's absolutely fine. And now we will quickly see the job log at the bottom, what it is running on. It's still running. It's taking time. Let it take time. Fine. And now we can see it's still running. Once it gets completed, we will see the final data preview once if the join got connected successfully with giving some data to us. And then we will of course include, okay, you can see the problem why because I didn't add anything in the output yet. So let me quickly add things in the output. So we will be adding the final output as this. Okay, let me just make the size little bigger so I can visualize the data. So the first field is invoice GUID is what I would like to add. So this is the invoice GUID. I just say add to output, and I'll also change the name here to this as invoice GUID. That will be my key field. So I come down and just make it as a key field. You know that in a attribute view we should ideally have one key field. So that's going to be my key field from the items table. And then I would need the company name, BP ID, of course I need it, company name I need it. What else? I need buyer GUID. That also we will include in the output. We need sales order created at, when the sales order was created. So let's see. In fact, we can take created at, where is it? Here it is, created at. So this is the created at field. So let me just change this to invoice created at. Invoice created at, when the invoice was created, that value I am picking it up. And then when the sales order invoice was created, and when the sales order was created. So do we have sales order creation date here? We don't have that. That's fine. So this is the created at date. This is okay. And then the sales order GUID, we also have it. We will also pick this up. I will also like to add the product GUID as part of the output. So these are all the properties I am just calculating and adding it in the list. Okay, we also marked one column as a key column. Let's activate now and see the status. So bare minimum requirement, you have to have one key field in the attribute view, and it should have all the fields for the output marked. And joins should also be proper. So all these requirement will meet, then it would column complete successfully. You can see now it's completed. Let's look at the data preview once. So we should now see invoices and their respective items as well in the final output. Okay, so let's check it out. Raw data, and you can see it's coming. So you see for this business partner, these are all the different invoices you have for every item or every product ID. You are getting this information. Now we are interested in invoice created at. When was this invoice created? Because this data would help me to calculate finally the average number of days since when the invoice is open, and that should be done at the item level. Actually, I forgot to include the created at the item level. I think it's not there. Okay, we will consider this only created at over here. This should be fine. So we, if you want to calculate the average number of days since when it's open, you need to calculate or add a calculated column in your attribute view, right? So today's date minus the invoice created date. Okay, today's date minus invoice created date, that is what you should use. And then with that you will calculate the difference between these two. Okay, and then if you take a final average of that, you would be able to tell how, since how many days the invoice is open. So first you need to just calculate a difference. So for that, now I will add a calculated column. Okay, so just right click here. I think we should take the change date, not the created date, because this is what will be the right use for date, because it may have happened that invoice would have changed. So this is my final date. So this was invoice date final. So based on this only I should calculate the difference. Now another thing, your invoice table have invoices which are paid also. Okay, there are invoices which are paid also. If you look at the data preview, okay, here we, that column is not coming because we didn't add it to the output payment status. Do you remember what did we do in ABAP to exclude the images which are already paid? Because Mr. James is only interested in the invoices which are unpaid, right? So for that we have included a condition in our ABAP program. If I take you back, you can see payment status equals to blank. This is what we have included, correct? That we also have to apply at the model level. So what I'll do is I right click on this column payment status and apply a filter which will retain inside my model for forever. Okay, so it will only now give me the records or the total of invoices which are open. Yeah, so now I just choose the value. It will fetch the value. You see I select the blank value, click on OK and say okay. So now it will only pull the invoices which are open. Let's reactivate the model. This is very important filter, guys, for us to calculate the right data. Otherwise you must be wondering what is that which is happening. Okay, and now it's time to also calculate the difference between the invoice date and today's date as a calculated column. This is how one way you push down the calculation to the database. So let's do that. So I come down, insert a calculated column, and for every invoice it should be calculated open days. So since when this invoice is open, that is what I'm going to calculate. The type of this is what I will consider invoice open days. I would consider it as an integer value. So let's choose integer from the list and now apply a formula. So what will be the formula? The formula is going to be today's date minus the date on which the invoice was created, correct? And if you look at the output of the date, let's look at the output. You can see it's kind of a timestamp. Okay, it's kind of a timestamp 2015-0203, right? So we need to now calculate a difference between this timestamp and today's date, and today's date would be considered as, again, it is a timestamp, but you can see my today's date 2nd December and the time is 7:40. But so if you calculate a difference 7:40 to December minus this, you would get in hours. So you would also basically reduce it down to a number which is round of number. Okay, because the time is not exactly 12 o'clock in the evening today. So we will do a round down to round off this number to exactly number of days rather than number of hours. Okay, so that's what we will be doing. So there is a question here in the chat box. Let me take that up. Can we provide multiple filter on a single field? No, you cannot provide multiple filter, but you can provide multiple filter on a single entity. For example, I can now apply a filter on the currency code also, that I want only invoices which are open in euros, not in other currencies. That is possible. But on a single column, you can't apply a multiple filters. It should be only one filter. Okay. Yes. And what the data model, typically when you run the data model, it will first apply the filter, then it pulls the data, and on top of that data, it will calculate the calculated column. So the first job what it will do is evaluate the filter value. When you run the model, it evaluates the data, it pulls all the data, evaluate considering the filter, and that selected data it will apply the calculation. Otherwise there is no point. Na? You are first doing calculation and then you're filtering on top. What will happen? Some of the columns which you calculated are now no more in the final output. Correct? So HANA is smart. What HANA does, it first select the data. Now it has the final set. On that set, it will do calculation. And that is one big difference between HANA and a developer writing the query. Sometimes a developer can do mistake if they do implement the logic in ABAP, right? So they may end up pulling all the data, and then on application layer do a where condition in loop at itab to filter the open invoices, and then for everything it is calculating the column, and then finally excluding the results. Then you have wasted your time calculating something which is not at all in the final output. So that's where information model is one of the best way to calculate the data. Okay, so there is another question. If you want to filter based on two different currencies, yes, your SQL script comes into picture in that case. If you want lot of complex logic like looping, imperative logic, a lot of comparisons to be done, that's where your SQL script based views comes into picture. We will talk about them. I did not started that. Last session I completed model based or graphical based calculation views. I have not spoken about yet SQL script based calculation views. There again you have two types. One is CE function based and one is imperative logic based. Because I have not yet explained SQL script in general to you, we will have a session on SQL script. First, understand what is SQL script, how does it work, different programming paradigms with SQL script, and then we will move to that calculation view with scripted calculation views. So you can understand what am I writing in the code. If I directly write CE functions, you may not understand how it is working. Okay. So there are little bit of programming things which you need to know before we move to SQL script. We will cover that in detail. Don't worry. Okay, now moving on, let's add a calculated column for open days. I would recommend capital letter, open days. It doesn't matter, HANA will convert it to caps automatically. Open days since invoice is open, and again an integer type. And then here we will write our expression. So expression is going to be, first of all, I'm going to calculate the current date. So you have a current date formula available in this formula builder. So you can just go and check if there is a formula for UTC. You can see this will give you the current date, guys. UTC now. Okay, in the UTC time zone, central time zone, that is the current date, minus, I can use this minus space. Okay, why it is got two time minus space, and now I will put the date from uh, my current value. So I will also convert this date to night 12 o'clock. Whatever date is there in database, I want to convert it to night 2 o'clock. Oh, sorry, night 0. Basically, I want to make it, night 0000. Basically, I don't want to consider time in calculating this difference. So I will use a function once again called date function. And then I double click. You can see I can give a date here now. So I will give a date. And my date column is here. So my invoice date final I've added, and now I want to, this difference whatever is coming, I want to calculate it to round off, basically round it off. I don't want difference of these two dates because it's a timestamp. What I'm calculating difference, it will also produce some hours. I don't want that hours to be part of my result in decimals, so I want to round it off. This whole formula, I cut this formula and I use another function called round down. So there's a function round down. I will put here our string which would end up producing a decimal number. So okay, I can't do now a paste here, it's not allowing. So again I have to calculate this. So UTC UTC thing, I need to calculate UTC today, UTC now, space minus, and then space, and then my column converted into date. So my column is this, and then I want to say the system fraction digit should be 0. That's my formula to calculate number of days since when invoice is open. Remember, Mr. James want average. Mr. James don't want number of days invoice is open. He want average. Remember this point. But now we just calculated the number of days since when it's open, not average. Click on OK. Let's activate the model and let's find out how many number of days all the invoices which are open invoices are open. Okay, so because you applied a filter, it will only pull the open invoices, and then it will apply this calculation on top of it using calculated column and gets you the count. Let's do a data preview. So you cannot basically use, you can also calculate the sum of your this thing, but that's not your attribute view is built of doing. Okay, you all remember the attribute views are not built for doing that. Now you can see it has got you the open day 725 725 per invoice. This is per invoice. For every single invoice it has got you this information. Okay, per invoice item, every invoice item level it has got you, because node key from item table is the primary key uh, for your data. Okay, is that clear to everyone? So let us move on now. So this is our attribute view. Now I will consume this attribute view to just display the data on the UI in my ABAP system. So we again have to create a proxy view object to consume it in ABAP. Let's switch to ABAP development perspective over here. This is my Eclipse ABAP perspective, and I just create a project, ABAP project, so that I can talk to my ABAP system. Next, my password for ABAP system. I can also I cannot create the proxy view object here in SAP GUI. Remember that you need to be on ADT tools. I come to my packages, right click. I'm just going to create a new view object, other type here view, and you can see dictionary view, and just give the name here. So I want to give a name, let's say my proxy object, it's proxy object, so I say p proxy, and then my view name, attribute view, what's the name of the view, 80 open days. Okay, I'm just keeping that naming convention, so I know that p is a proxy object of an attribute view 80 open days. That's the naming convention I'm following. Remember, this is not the complete functionality what Mr. James want. It is only half of the functionality where it will calculate the number of days, average number of days since when invoice is open. Remember this point. It's an external view proxy which is coming from HANA. So I browse my HANA and I put my view name 80 open days. There you go. In the sales package, click on OK. And I have to also give a description quickly. So say proxy view for open days. So this is again a limited functionality. It will not give you the another part which Mr. James is expecting. Okay, that's another part of story. We'll discuss about that in a minute. Click on finish. System would now create a proxy object in ABAP. Test objects cannot be created in foreign namespace. It should start with Z. So I put ZP, finish. and now you would have this proxy object available in your ABAP system. So in ABAP system, I will go and write a report program to display this data onto the screen. So let's go to the ABAP, and I will just quickly make a copy of our current program, which is displaying the open item analysis SQL2, and I just changed the SQL to AT attribute view approach. Okay, ATP attribute view proxy. We will use this ATP now. And okay, 1 second. I just copy that view actually. I will make copy that program. I copy this program and create attribute view PRX proxy. So basically this name, you can see it's consuming an attribute view proxy view which has been created in HANA. Click on copy. We will just now change the query. We won't write the whole program. We will just change the logic part where we were calculating it. So this time and all these things will be again helpful for us. So if you just remember, here we were calculating these total days and all this stuff, and here we were calculating the basically this amount, and converting also this amount to a common currency. We will remove this because it's a limited functionality now, and I will also put all the data declarations on the top. It's better to keep them on the top. That's a standard ABAP practice. And I'll just come here and consume my proxy object rather than this loop. Okay, so consume my proxy view which has been created, and I just also remove this thing so it will look little nice and clean. And I just also mark the customer. So let's calculate this. So now I'm going to fire a query on my proxy view. Let's quickly check if this is being available now in ABAP system. So I come to SC11, go to data view, ZP attribute and star, press F4. You can see it's available. All the columns which you have exposed from there have been available. You can see open days column, which was a calculated column in your attribute view, is also being available over here. Okay, so what I will do is I will calculate now average of this with simple average functions. So you can fire a select query it on this as a table, and what you can do is you can say select business partner underscore ID as BUPA as BPID. So this is fine. In my structure, final structure, I have BPID column, so that's absolutely fine. Second column is company name, that is also there in my final structure. And then I have number of average days. So I will calculate an average AVG of my open days. That's my column name on which I am calculating an average as average days. Yeah. Okay, just put a space here. This is good. From my proxy view ZP, it's a proxy view control space, and you can see it is the only object which I have with this namespace ZP. I have selected that, and I can say into corresponding fields of my table LT amount. Perfect. And then of course you got to do a group by so that it would pull the information BPID and company name. Save this. We're done, and then loop over this and just tag these customers wherever the criteria matches. I will right now remove the amount criteria from this because you know that we are not calculating an amount here. My attribute view is not able or not equipped or not designed or not built in HANA to do aggregations. So that's why I just remove this. This average also I don't have to calculate it specifically based on occurrence because this has already been coming, and I've used an aggregate function to calculate average on my view data. Yeah, that's not required. Just not this also, this also, this also, just a tagging approach and number of average days. So I'm just doing the tagging. Rest all is already there. So whichever data is more than 320, which is an average, tag that particular customer. Okay, so LV tagging will be true. So I will just clear the tagging, clear my tag value, and then based on this condition it will decide the tag. Okay, save this. I'll see the runtime as well for this. Let's activate. There's a syntax error. Let's go edit. This is now defined as a dictionary object in table. Why? It's giving me an error. We already have got this object zpet open days to consume. Why it's giving me an error? Maybe I have to come out of session and join again. SE38. Go inside again the report and do one more time a check. It's not recognizing my proxy view, guys, in my select query. So let's try one more time. Do a quick check. Again, it's not recognizing. There is some problem. And it's also saying LV tagging is unknown. That's fine. What else? LV average. Field LV average is unknown. Okay, that's okay. So that's coming from my field symbol. Average days. LV tagging is been declared now. Do a check. Okay, do we have a problem? Select this as this from this into corresponding fields of table. I have to put, guys, here table because it would end up giving me multiple records. That's why it should be a table. Let me just go do a check, and I'm only left with my issue with regard to my proxy object. It's saying my proxy object is not available in the database. Why? I double click on this. It says you cannot use RTTR view with standard editor. Why it's giving me an error? I should be able to call it, right? Maybe we will do one thing. We'll try to edit this report from our ABAP development tools in Eclipse and see if it works from there. Maybe it's saying me the same thing. It's saying you cannot call this proxy object from normal ABAP development tools. Sorry, normal editor. So let me come out of this and try to open the same report in my ABAP in Eclipse. I go to my local package, source code, programs, and just try to see this report over here. We would have this somewhere. Here it is. This is my report, and I'll do a check now over here. Just do a syntax check. Let's see the error. There's one error in this. It's not defined in ABAP. Why it's giving me this error? Let me try to activate. Yes. Let's see what happens. It gives me still an error. Why am I not able to consume my proxy object in ABAP query? This is strange. I should be able to consume my proxy object in ABAP query. Let me check this proxy object. Guys, I got the reason. After creating the proxy object, I have not activated it. That's why the issue is coming. Let me activate my proxy object. Okay, I think that was the issue. I have forgot to activate my proxy object. Let me come now. I think it should be able to also do a change here. Let's do a check. Still an error. Do I miss something? I just also click on synchronize. Activate my proxy object. Ideally it should work, guys. Activate. Ideally it should work. I have activated it now. Let me give a shot now from my ABAP SE38 one more time. Change it. This is strange. This is very, very strange. It's giving me an error. If the new OpenSQL syntax is used, you must be used throughout, including at the rate of escape host variable. Okay, guys, now you see the error is gone, and it is asking me to add a new OpenSQL syntax escape character at the rate of. You see the view error is gone. It's now recognizing after activation successfully. It is recognizing this, and voila, you can see finally my report is bug free. It was just an activation issue with my proxy object. Okay, let's see the outcome and time. What time is more important, I want to see. Let me quickly go back to the previous report and observe the time. Underscore 2, execute it. Of course, it's doing more thing, 29 millisecond. And let me do it now with this ADPRX, execute. 55 milliseconds it's taking to calculate the average. 48. So there is no significant time reduction in case if I use a proxy view with attribute view. Okay, there is no significant time reduction, guys. You can see still 48 millisecond is what it is taking. That too, it's not giving me the full-fledged functionality of calculating the currency conversion as well as the gross amount. It's limited functionality. So you see, not a major improvement when you just want to convert your average functionality calculation, pushing it down to the database with an attribute view. Okay, moving on now, we will now move to the next level of doing an analytical view where we'll also calculate a currency converted total gross amount, and then come back and see the performance of that with respect to my ABAP code. Let's come back and check. So I will come back here and then I will create a new analytical view. So let's switch to the HANA modeler perspective. Come down and create an analytical view here. And that analytical view would also use a star schema concept where I would join my this current attribute view with an analytical view. So click on new and I say analytical view open item 1, because I'm going to create more analytical views in the future. So I will just put a number here and I say calculate final result set, final set, gross, and open days. Okay, it's an analytical view. Click on finish. So my main purpose of using this analytical view is to do the calculation in-house in the database, especially the currency conversion, which we are currently doing in ABAP report. Okay, so that is my final or main intention behind this using this analytical view is. Okay, so I will drag and drop my table, which is invoice header table, from where I'm going to calculate this. Sorry, invoice item table, from where my this will be calculated. The gross amount total will be calculated based on this. I will pull the node key here in the output. I will also add the gross amount, the currency code. I'll define an input parameters. You see, that's the beauty of an analytical view. You cannot define an import parameter whenever it comes to the your uh, attribute view. You can do it only in analytical view. So let's define input parameter. Import for currency conversion. IM import target currency, and just label it. It's a direct input, mandatory input, and I just define the constant value as euro, and semantic type I use it as a currency. Okay, that's it. Do I need to use data type? Varchar 3. I use Varchar 3 as the data type for this currency. It's a mandatory input parameter, and I also define the default value to euros. Basically, I'm going to convert all the values to euros. Click on OK. So that's my currency code value. I have added import parameter, and now I have to calculate the converted currency. Yeah, so I have to calculate that. Go to the star join and now add a calculated column, which is converted currency amount. So I do that, new calculated column, and I say converted gross, and then varchar 3. It's a measure. Ultimately it's going to be a measure, guys. So you will already be calculating this as a measure, and this should all include the same column which we have in the table. Gross amount. Go to semantics, amount with currency code, the currency value, which is okay. I have to choose amount conversion decimal shift, and then I have to put here currency is euro, currency code is this, and then schema, which is used for currency conversion. You already know it's SAP A4H, which is the current schema. The source currency is going to come from my table. So for every record there will be a source currency. So right now I'm making it the table. So select the column of the table, currency code, whatever is there in table, and the target currency is my import parameter, guys. So whatever user will import, that becomes my target currency. We already did it in the past. Exchange type, I will choose an exchange type here for currency conversion. So we will use exchange type as M, standard currency conversion, and conversion date, you can take today's date, hard code it, or you can also put a current date column in the calculate in the analytical view and map it to that. So right now I'm putting today's date, and exchange rate is, I don't want to put it, just come down and just say fail. If the currency conversion is not working, just fail it. Okay, click on OK. Basically we're going to do it in euros, guys, because I already know that in this system that the values are maintained for euro. Okay, USD to euro, it's maintained in the system. I will do that. Great, we click on OK. That's my new currency converted values. Okay, that's my new currency converted values. And then I'm just going to also drag and drop my attribute view here, because I want to combine this data with my attribute view open days. Drag and drop this, it has come, and there will be a join which I have to define now between these two views. So let's define a join between them, between my attribute view and this stars, the fact table. So I'll just define a view. So I will say for every invoice GUID, there is this node key, and there can be n-to-1 relationship for that. Click on OK. And now you see, guys, you must be thinking, Anubhav, in this case it will pull me all the items which are even paid, correct? Isn't it? This table, there is no field called pending invoice. Invoice status is not there in this table. So it will pull also the items which are paid by customer already. So you don't want them to be in the output. So the moment I do this join now, and if I apply this join as an inner join, what system will do? System will say only pull the data from the fact table where the both condition are matching. And in this attribute view, we already applied a filter. You can see that nice calculated thing, and filter was applied, which was pulling the data for only the unpaid invoices. So this attribute view will now ultimately filter with this join only the invoices which are unpaid, and on top of this analytical view will calculate the gross amount total. Okay, so we are done, I think. With this we can define the measures here now finally. So my gross amount normal is a measure, rest all the things are automap, and we are done with definition of this. And let's activate our analytical view. So this will now give me the total number of days, plus it will also give me the the average open days. Okay, both the data will come. So that's my analytical view. Let's also at the same time create a proxy object, proxy view object, to consume this in ABAP, and we will write our report program which would consume this analytical view now. So I go to the ABAP development perspective once again and create a right click, new, other, just create a view, dictionary view, just put it as analytical or ZP analytical view, open OIA, I can put it OIA1, dictionary view, just put it as, I think we should keep the same name, guys, analytical view open item 1. This is my view. analytical proxy. Just also keep the name same, and open item 1. Okay, ZP prefix and the same name of my view in the database. I am keeping that over here. Okay, open item 1. Click on finish. System would create now an analytical view. Import of HANA view not possible. See the ABAP log details. It's not allowing me now to import. Why? Why it's not allowing me importing this? Analytical open item. Is there any problem? Let's see the dictionary log at the bottom. Field converted gross, no dictionary type exists in database type varchar. Check this, checking external. Okay, I think the calculated column which we have created here, I had choose a wrong type for that. So if I go here, double click, I choose varchar for converted amount, guys. My mistake. It should be decimal. Correct? It's a currency value. Okay, converted currency value. It cannot be a character. So that was the problem in our view. Let's activate again. Good that ABAP gives me this issue. And let's try one more time. Activating our analytical view. Let's see the result. You can see it got completed. Let's go back to ABAP perspective and try to create one more time. So right click, new other object, view object, dictionary view, and I just choose it as external view, Z proxy, open item 1, and just browse it. Analytical open item 1. Finish. Now let's see. Finally, you can see it got created. Let's click on activate button. Very important. If you miss this step, you would not be able to consume the view in your ABAP report. Perfect. So you can see now it has been added. All the fields have been added into this. Let's quickly go back and now hit a query on this guy. And I just this time change it to ATPRX to ANPRX. Let's make a copy of the same report so all the things gets copied. Analytical view pro PRX. Copy this and go for a change. And now you can see we have got this value over here. So let's go ahead and apply the query on this analytical view. So now you see earlier in your ABAP report, you were actually firing multiple queries on multiple tables, even with aggregations, of course, but there were multiple queries you were firing. Let me show you the ABAP report. So first thing which it simplified is you now need to hit only single database object rather than multiple database objects. Point 1. Point 2, also the currency conversion which you were doing. So you can see here first you were doing this and then later on you were doing this. So here you also were doing currency conversion in the application layer. Okay, but now this is all done implicitly automatically within the database layer. So this is one advantage. Let's go ahead and now look at the results of this. So first of all, I got to now change this query. So this query should be now changed according to our analytical view. So we should select BPID, the company name, the average number of open days, of course. So you can see BPID, company name, average number of open days, and I'm now going to include some more columns. So I'm gonna include the sum of my aggregated or calculated gross amount. So let's open our view proxy object here in SC11 and I say Z analytical view star. You would get only one, so it will populate display. That's my view. And I want to calculate, have this converted gross amount. You can see that the new currency converted gross amount as gross amount. and this remains as average days. Okay, and then we will also have this currency code, of course, which we are getting. So this currency code is something which you get now, converted currency code. So you already know that the currency code which is being used in the database is euro. So you can hard code that. That's not a big deal. So now this values will come to you. You don't have to do any currency conversion in ABAP side anymore. So you'd finally get this amount value, LT amount, and then you can just calculate your formula based on average days. Okay, let me go to the previous report. What was the threshold value for currency for the gross amount, converted gross amount, to mark that customer as a defaulter? So let's check that condition. So you can now do that for these things. So let's come here, and what was the amount value they were expecting to mark that guy as a defaulter? It is this condition, gross amount. So we will put now the gross amount 1 million, and it is exceeding 320 days. That customer is a defaulter. Mark that customer or tag that customer, and that's it. I guess we don't have anything extra. That's my analytical view to fulfill my complete requirement over here. Let's activate this. Okay, there's an error. Edit. It says unknown column name converted gross until runtime. You cannot specify a field list. Why it's giving me this error now? Converted gross. What was the column name did we keep there into our view? So let me use this. Open the view definition in SE11, the proxy definition. This is attribute actually. We should open analytic. Okay guys, sorry, I did not change my view name. It's still attribute view. We change it to analytical view. There it is. Great. Check it. Error is gone. Let's activate and run this. So you see the simplification of your code also. Earlier, to do the same requirement, you had two different queries. There were loop also, there were currency conversion, and a lot of complexity. It's been completely reduced now to the single query with no currency conversion, just a simple select on the DB table or on the DB proxy object, pulls the data, loops over it, calculate the value and display it. Let's also look at the runtime. So first runtime I won't consider. Okay, the data itself is not coming. There's some problem. Maybe we'll do a quick data preview over here before we get into the system. Let me just go and do a data preview over here. Maybe it could be a problem that we have done a wrong join. Because of that, it's causing an issue. Okay, it could be a problem. Invoice GUID with this node key, this should be okay. Let's give a try with the data preview over here. It should work ideally. It should work. If our join condition is proper, it should pull the data. Okay, currency from euro only I want to convert. Let's look at the output. You see guys, even my HANA is not giving data. There is definitely something wrong I did in my join. In my join there is something wrong. I think it should be referential join. Let me give it a try. I think that was the problem. It's pruning the join, expecting both or imposing a hard constraint actually. I think that's the problem. Let's try. Completed. Let's do an open data preview. I need to make sure that my column which I have joined are all coming from my items table. That's very important for me to check. It could also happen that my currency conversion is causing a failure, but that shouldn't happen. Okay, let me quickly check. This is my items table. From here the node key have been picked up, and if I go to my attribute view in my HANA modeler perspective, 80 open days. Let's see what value am I picking. Am I picking the node key from my items table? Where is it truly failing? Okay, let me check here. This node key has been picked up, and this has been named as invoice GUID. In my analytical view, is the invoice GUID joined? Yeah, invoice GUID have been joined with the node key. Node key we coming with, guys, see the problem. I have done a mistake. I have picked up by mistake PO invoice table. Purchase order invoice table I picked up. That's why it's not working. My bad. Got to remove this. I got to destroy things and now recreate them quickly. Got to pick the right table. Sales order invoice item. This is my baby. Drag and drop. Quickly do the calculated column once again. Node key has to be gone in output. Then my cross amount has to go in output. My currency code has to go in output. And then has to be an import parameter. It's already in place. Go back. Converted gross amount has to change. This is coming now from the gross amount of here. And then converted source currency is coming from my new column, which is the currency code here. Okay, schema is fine. Output currency is also fine. Target, date, everything looks okay. Converted gross currency, calculated column, decimal 15.2, fine. Click on OK. Definitely define a join with invoice GUID. Okay, sorry. We can do still the inner join, doesn't matter. It has to be hard join between these two. Exchange rate not required, not a mandatory parameter for currency conversion. Inner join I'm doing, guys, into one between these two tables, and let's do an activation one more time. Now, important point, after you make a change to your data model, you have to synchronize your ABAP object, your ABAP proxy object, because otherwise your ABAP goes out of sync. This is the biggest problem with the information models, and that's why people are moving towards CDS views rather than information models. Let's go to ABAP perspective and change our proxy object which we created. Is it open somewhere? No, it's not open. Okay, first let's do a data preview of this. Very important. Let's do a data preview if it works. Fine, currency conversion is okay. Do it. Voila, you can see data comes up. This I should have done before creating proxy object ideally, because my join works fine now. Okay, so let's adopt our proxy object in ABAP. Go to ABAP perspective, go to dictionary, database proxies. Okay, not procedure proxies, it's view proxies. And now you see my analytical open item one over here. Let's synchronize this object. Yes. And activate this object. Yes. Activate. And done. Let's run the report one more time. Execute the report. And voila, you got your data. Okay. So these are all the customers who have been marked for tagging, and you see, oh, oops, I'm wondering how come it's increasing the time. Ideally it should have reduced the time, guys. I'm very surprised to see if it is taking more time. You see, next time it is 54 millisecond, and if I run again 48, it's reducing actually, as in when I'm running it, it's reducing the time. But I also suspect the output, it's not matching with the output from report. We are doing something wrong. Let me run the sample report which we had earlier used and compare both the outputs. I'm suspecting our output is not matching. There is something wrong in our model. You see, for African gold company 415159, let's see African gold 415159. This is okay, it's matching. Why is a problem then? 748 is the average. You see, guys, this is a problem. Your average days is a problem. See, 243 is coming. There is something wrong. Our average days is 748 here. You see here 243. There is something wrong in average days calculation, I guess. There is something definitely wrong. Either here is it's wrong or here it is wrong. I can also see Japanese insurer for same threshold value, they're both producing different data, and that is definitely because of average days. You can see almost everything is causing an issue because of this. We need to now find this issue. Where is this issue? Okay, let's also see the amount value somewhere if it is causing an issue. 153 153 2163, 153 2163. This is perfect. It's calculating currency conversion perfectly, guys. It's producing the output of your amount field properly. See, Mexican oil 162.0636. Let's go and check Mexican oil. Here it is 162.0636. Correct. This is all okay. I think we have some problem with average days. You see, it's all going in 740, 747. Something it is going. Either our this calculation here is wrong or this calculation here is wrong. Who will tell me? There is a sample report in ABAP system to do same thing. SAP delivered this report to us. This is called open item analysis. Same used case SAP have given us, and I will run that report. That's a reference for me. I go to SE38. Report name is RS underscore OIA underscore. You will get this BUPA figures. Execute this, and now you will see what output it produces. So I run it with OpenSQL, and here you can see 736 is the average days, guys. So let's say Avental 736 is the average days. So if you come here, you can see this is your old report. It is showing you 300 something, which is incorrect. Your calculation view, or sorry, your analytical view which you have used now, it's matching Avental 736. Let's go and check the output of analytical view. Avental 742. This is also different. There is some problem in both ways. 742, 736, but at least it's closer. Okay, what I can clearly observe with this is our average calculation in initial report is incorrect. It's somewhere we're doing something wrong in this. Okay, so this we have to correct it. Let me quickly check if I can do it now right away. So our average days calculation was wrong from beginning. We didn't do it correctly. There is something which we missed. Did we miss the calculation? And there is something wrong here. Convert date timestamp ZNLO. You can see date minus this date, LV date, which we are getting. And this LV date, how are we getting? Created at date from work area. And this we are selecting from which table? You see, guys, we are selecting created at date. It should be changed at date. Changed at last change when it was happened in the invoice. That is what I think should be the issue. Let's activate. That's the problem, I guess. Okay, let's go and do this now. No, still not. There is something wrong. There is something definitely wrong. Maybe I will check this offline and get back to you tomorrow. What is that which is going in this report? Let me note down this as an action item. I will check this. There is something wrong in our calculation. The way we implemented our first report. I have to cross check that. Something with the logic, I guess. So we will check this. But now you can see at least our output from calculation view seems to be quite closer. So I think this is the output which something we can believe on. And I think this is also with reference to this African gold 738. Let's see, African gold 748. So here also there is a difference, some difference which is coming. I don't know why. Maybe I'll just choose a view in this. Okay, this also I have to check it actually, why there is a difference coming, what is that they are using internally in this code to calculate this average days. But you can clearly see here, the performance would definitely improve if you have large amount of data, because now your currency conversion is also done in the database layer. I cannot, unfortunately guys, for everything it's not showing me the result, but it's always proving that your open SQL is taking is running much faster. You see 27 millisecond, but for our proxy object, now if I run this, it is always coming higher. But technically speaking, I don't know the reason for this. Maybe it's a training system why it's behaving like this, but definitely you would get performance improvement when it comes to using your analytical views, or the views which are doing calculations in database and sending final results to the ABAP. You can definitely uh, get better results when it happens. In this system, unfortunately I can't show that, or I cannot prove that actually. If you see the report which SAP delivers, standard report, they also doing the same thing. And they are what they're doing is they are using class models, they are using proper design patterns to pull this data at different layers. They have different class implementation to perform this. And here I can actually show you the results, the difference in time. So if I run the first one with the normal ABAP, which I also coded, you would see the time which it takes. It's running. It would finally give you result in some time, and then it will run with aggregation, and then it will run with analytical view. Okay, so we will see the difference. So you see 13,000 seconds it took, and now if I run with aggregate functions, it took 30 milliseconds. And now if I run with analytical view, so you can see analytical view, limited scope, I run with it, you see 64. Actually it is taking for them also high. With the analytical view it's taking high for them, but you would definitely see some performance improvement. This is something you need to balance, you need to try after converting your code to or doing code push down to the database layer, and see if you're truly getting the performance improvement. If yes, you should go with code push down using an information model. Otherwise we have other techniques. So whenever you get such a performance improvement requirement, you have to ask yourself which approach you should choose by coding these approaches in the system. So that's why I'm teaching all the approaches. Whichever approach you feel is giving you better result in the system, because there are a lot of system factors which it depends on. In this training system, my HANA system is not that great. If I just show you the computation power of this HANA system, it's not that great as compared to the application server computation power. So let me just quickly go to the admin console of this and show you how much CPUs it has connected to build this HANA DB. This could be a HANA Express edition which they have installed in the server, which is not having that much great computation power, that much of CPU, that much of RAM, or that much of processing speed. So that's why you may not get that great result. Okay, so don't go by this example results, but think logically. The logic says your HANA system is being designed to do complex calculations, aggregations, and as you following guidelines, you would definitely get performance improvements. So you can see here, it's a Linux version, and hardware manufacturer is Zen. It's not even Intel. So this is the processor of on which the HANA DB is running on, and you can see the consumption of the memory here. How much memory is being kept in RAM? Actually, all the data is kept in RAM. So resident memory is only 52 GB. It's a 52 GB box. Okay, so you would not get that great improvement in performance, because it also depends on your HANA. Okay, it also depends on your HANA database. How big is your boxes? It's a training system. They have not given so much of resources here. But yes, definitely in your company, you would not have a training system like this. You would have a productive environment where you have multi-core CPUs connected together with massive parallel processing happening. You would get results. So don't go by example that you're not getting. Okay, Anubhav has showed me that here it's 32 seconds and there 49 seconds, but you would get results. Okay, so our main focus should be understanding the techniques, understanding the guidelines, and coding it in the system so that we get better results. Okay, so now I will move on to the third type of view, which is calculation view, to perform this using calculation view and consume it. Okay, before that, Let's quickly discuss about ADBC now. This is the right time we should introduce the concept for ADBC. What is ADBC? How can we use ADBC? So we saw consuming our views using view proxy object. So we create a proxy object of this view, and with that we consume it. There is another technique where you can consume HANA artifacts, or you can even run direct queries on HANA database, which you can test on HANA DB, and then you can run it directly from ABAP. Okay, native SQL queries. So I select this, go to SQL, and I'll basically write a query which calculates something. So let me do that. So I say select star from my schema name SAP A4H dot snwd underscore sales order invoice items. Okay, this is the table I'm running it. Execute it. Execute this query. So I click on execute, and let's see what do you get. You can see you're getting some results. Now I will join this data with my SAP A4H ABAP for HANA dot snwd sales order invoice table on, and I just put an alias name for this. This is my item table, and this is my header table. So header and item tables. I just put header table dot node key equals to item table dot parent key. Let's execute this, and let's see how much time it takes to run it in HANA. I click on execute. Okay, there's some problem. Could not find table snwd so invoice. Why? Okay, it's header table, guys. Invoice header, INVHEAD. That's the table name. I choose the wrong table name. Execute it. You can see now the join data from these two tables. Let's join third table, SAP schema name a4h.snwd table on my join condition now, and my join condition is BP table. I say sn header table dot okay, I need to now check the table structure actually. So let's go to check the table structure for invoice header. So basically I'm now writing some queries directly in HANA, okay, on my database table, and this query I want to run it from ABAP. That's what we will see now. Or in fact, even a query which you could do now here directly on your analytical view if you want to run it directly from ABAP rather than without creating a proxy object, proxy view object. Because let's say some cases your company is not giving you an ADT installation, ABAP development tools installation. So how will you create your proxy object, right? You cannot create it, but you need to find some way to call your HANA artifact, which is HANA calculation view or analytical view. How do you do that? That's where this concept will be used. So let me build this query quickly. So sales order invoice header, what is the field which is used to define the GUID? I think it's buyer GUID. Let me just check quickly in the table, and we will map it with the business partner table. It's buyer GUID, correct? So it's right. Buyer GUID is equals to my BP table dot node key. All three tables are joined now. Execute. You got the results. Now I want to also say that where only open invoices, so header table dot payment status is equals to blank. Okay, execute it once again, and there you go. You can see now only the invoices which are unpaid. So now I will apply an aggregation to build the results finally. So I will say here my company name from BP table, and then average, calculate the average of open days. And how do you do that? Or calculate the sum of gross amount from my invoice item table. So I say my item table dot gross amount and group by company name. Let's execute this query. And you can see now it's giving me total open invoices gross amount open by every company. I think this is the real result. I can now, I'm sure about this result. We can compare this result also with our ABAP report. So you can see this is Aventel, it's 1903,796, 1903,1789,569. Actually this is incorrect, 190,1799. So what mistake are we doing here? We are calculating the sum of from items table. This should be fine. I'm not sure. But the idea here is to now run this query from ABAP. How do you do that? So there are multiple techniques. One technique is using a native SQL, direct native SQL statement in ABAP, and using the cursor technique, which I will show you in later chapter. When you just want to run a query, you can open a cursor from ABAP and run that directly into the in the HANA system. Another way is ADBC, ABAP Database Connectivity. So what is ADBC? ADBC stands for ABAP Database Connectivity. Using this technique, we can run HANA related queries directly using ABAP system, ABAP code. So SAP HANA or SAP ABAP NetWeaver 7.4 onwards, we have this ADBC APIs available to call the queries using simplified interface. Now, one more reason why ADBC. Point one, if your company do not have ABAP ADT available, you cannot create proxy objects. As we saw, the proxy view which you're creating is only possible with ABAP on Eclipse. How will you consume your HANA information model? You can do that by directly firing a query. So you can say select. Okay, let me open another console. Maybe we will use the same query later on. This query we will use it. So I just come here again, open another console and directly fire now a query on our analytical view. So I say select star from ZP. Okay, sorry, not ZP. It's analytical open item 1. I can do that. Press F8 and it will get executed. Okay, why? Invalid table name. Okay, sorry guys, you can't fire a query on these. If you remember the concept, what I told you, whenever you create an information model in database, there is a corresponding view object which gets created, and this is the view name. You can see here this column view name in the schema sysbig gets created automatically. You can fire a query on this view actually in database if you want to do it. So let's copy this guy and paste it here and execute it. So you would see the result now from that analytical view will be popping up. Execute. And there you go. You can see it showing you the results. So this is the currency converted value for gross amount, which it is showing you. You can also do now an aggregate here. You can say company name, comma, average of days open, and then you can say sum of gross amount. That you can do it. Group by company name. This is a database view, correct? It's a DDB view. So now I execute this. Okay, there is a problem. Days open is not right. It's open days. Execute it. Okay, what's the problem? Do I need to use a space here? I guess yes, so. Why it's giving me an error? Invalid data type undefined, subness. Okay, let me check my view. What is the column name I have in my columns? Columns which are coming from here. It's open underscore days. Open underscore days as open days as cross. Let me just use this. Execute. Invalid data type, undefined function, subnas, long date. Something is the problem. I will come to your question, Deep. Just hold on. This query, why it's not working? There is some problem in this query. What it is saying, open days from gross, invalid data type, undefined function, subnas, long date. I think there is some problem. I think this problem is coming from our attribute view while I'm calling a query. Okay, let me complete the topic for ADBC and then we will come to this problem again. So what is happening here is I am now trying to call this select query. Let's say this select query, I want to call it from ABAP. Okay, so how can I do it? This is one problem why you would use ADBC. Point number one, if your company don't have ADT and you want to consume proxy object, you would use ADT. There is second biggest reason for that. Let's imagine a setup where your company have application layer connected to a existing database, which is your current ERP implementation, and it is running on, let's say, SAP MaxDB or IBM DB2. Okay, it's running on IBM DB2. This is the database your company is running on. Now your company want to analyze the power of SAP HANA. So what will they do? Will they throw this database out and will they plug HANA directly? Anybody? What will happen? No. They will bring HANA database in parallel to this DB2. They will say, we want to just evaluate SAP HANA as a database and see its power. Can it really help me in the company? And I will migrate all the data, as I told you in the initial days. This is called data provisioning from this DB2 to the HANA DB. And then I will connect to this HANA DB as a secondary database. Remember guys, very important point. This is connected as a secondary database. And this is called sidecar scenario. Remember, this is called sidecar scenario. When you run SAP HANA database, not as a primary database, any operation you're doing, like you're running VA01 to create sales order, the sales order gets created here, not here. This is running as a secondary database from your ABAP program. Now you can call the secondary database directly, but you have to use in ABAP program separately a call. Okay, in ABAP program you have to specifically tell that I want to hit my secondary database. Okay, so call query with secondary database. This is very important, and when you do this, that's when it will go to SAP HANA. Otherwise all the operation goes to DB2, which is your default primary database. DBcon is the transaction where you would see this connection is being done. So some companies still they are on sidecar approach. Now if they ask you to consume an information model which is there in SAP HANA here and show some output, what will you do? It's not a primary database. You can't create a proxy view object at all. What will you do? How will you consume your information model? Tell me. How will you consume? You can't create a view proxy at all in application layer now. Not possible, because this is not a primary database. It's running as a sidecar, side database. There's no connection. There is no primary connection. Every read, write, update, delete happening with this DB. And you're replicating this data and just connected it somehow sidecar approach. What will you do? You have to explicitly call it. You have to tell your system, please use the secondary database explicitly. And ultimately, to call a HANA query or a HANA view or a HANA information model, you have to use ADBC. So when your HANA DB running as a secondary database sidecar scenario, that's when you will use the ADBC, guys. Very important, ABAP database connectivity. This will help you to connect to your secondary databases also. Okay, so what's there in ADBC? Basically, it's a collection of interfaces and classes. Okay, it's a framework, and framework is always a collection of interfaces and classes through which you can fire the queries on your database artifacts. Okay, that's what exactly it is. So now what I will do is I will show you how to use ADBC to call this particular query from ABAP system. Okay, we will call this from ABAP system and produce whatever data we are producing here directly in ABAP and see how fast it will work. Execute it. Though you can actually write same query if your HANA is running as a primary database in OpenSQL. You can do that actually. Okay, you can do that. If your HANA is running as a primary database in OpenSQL, same query can be used and produce output. But the problem is the problem is if your HANA runs as a secondary database, you can't do this. Then you have to use ADBC. Now I also got the answer why this amount is different. Some amount 6724821 is different than this amount what you see here. For Aventel, if you see Aventel 1789569 is different than 1903796. Why? Anybody, can you tell me what's the reason? What is the reason why it's different? The reason is very simple: currency conversion. We didn't do any currency conversion in our query. The base currency in database table is US dollar, and this report OIA scenario works on currency conversion to euro currency. That's why in euro this amount have changed. Is that clear to everybody? This was one question I was thinking parallelly. Why this amount is different? Though the query is doing same thing, this is why it's different, because it's a currency converted amount. You remember we are doing currency conversion from US dollar to euros in application layer for OIA scenario, or in DB layer using analytical view in OIA scenario. So now only open point on me is to check this average days, why it's not working in our base report, and why there is some 1 or 2 days difference in case of our analytical view with this report. That's only part which I have to check it. Okay, so let's come down once again and try to run this query with ABAP. So what is that? How you use ADBC to call your ABAP or call your HANA queries or HANA views directly. Second important thing which I could not answer still yet is this one. Why this guy is failing? Ideally it should have run. Select this sum of gross amount as gross from this. It should have run ideally actually. I'm not sure why it's giving me an error. I will check that offline. Okay, but maybe I'll show you running this particular query directly from ABAP. And I will also show you if your HANA DB runs as a secondary database, what is that you guys will be doing to make it work. Okay, so let's quickly look at a ABAP program now where we will do this. We will call it. So I go to SE38 and I will create a ABAP program. Okay, my session got logged out. You can also go to ABAP perspective here directly. That's also very helpful. Just close the unwanted windows and I will create an ABAP program now. So create new ABAP program and I say y demo ADBC and I say ADBC demo. Click on next and then just say finish. And I will write an ABAP report here for ADBC. So what is that there in this ADBC framework? So basically it allows you to call any query directly or push down this query to database. Whatever data is output is produced, that you can capture back in ABAP. So you all remember this 3-tier architecture. Once again, in application layer and DB layer, your query goes to database. Database runs this query, produces an output. This data comes in application layer. So you need a container in application layer which is nothing but your internal table in ABAP to hold this data, correct? So we will first define a data type which can hold this data. So let's define this. Our query is producing two outputs actually. One is company name and one is gross amount. So let's define a structure. So data, or actually I will define a type, begin of ty my adt, and I just say company name, type snwd underscore bpa dot company, sorry, not dot, it's hyphen. In HANA it's dot for specifying the table dot column name. In ABAP it's hyphen. Okay, I get confused many times, so just use company name. And then we use the next one as the gross amount. Just put it as a gross, type snwd underscore sales order invoice table hyphen gross amount, end of ty my adt, and then we'll declare a database, internal table using data declaration, lt table, type table of ty my adt, and let's declare a work area for this table like line of lt table. Save this report, sales order invoice header. I think the table name is incorrect. Save this. We're done. Let's quickly just do a syntax check after saving this if something is wrong. As I can see here, it's showing me some, okay, type table of, correct. We're done with data declaration. Now here the game starts with adt. The first thing you need to do is prepare your query statement in a string. So I will declare a string variable in which my entire query I will push it. So lv query type string. You need to send the query to database. So you have to prepare a variable lv query or anything, whatever you like the name of variable. In this you have to put your query. So remember the chain operator which I explained you in ABAP. Like that you can put a pipe and then you can keep concatenating the results. So we will break down our query into pieces and put it under chains. Okay, like this. Like this we will put it. So the first query line I will pick it up from my HANA SQL console. So let's say select this much, copy this part, come here, put it in the first chain. I paste it. Okay, it's not working. Copy paste, some problem. I will just go back, Control C, come back, Control V. It's not working. My Control CV. Let me copy manually and paste manually. Why my control button is not working? There is some problem. Where is the paste button? Here it is. Shift insert is the press paste button here. And let me do again another copy. Right click, Control insert and shift insert. Okay, that's the shortcut. Just do a shift insert. Now here shift insert. Yes, it's working with shift insert. Control insert and shift insert. And then maybe this one, this third line. So control insert, copy, and shift insert, paste. Of course I have to put all the lines, guys, very important. So pipe operator, ampersand, pipe operator. So all the query lines as it is, query, guys, as it is, the way it is working there. Just do control insert, come here and do a shift insert. Let's go back again, do a control insert. Let's come here and do a shift insert. Great. And one mistake I'm doing here, I have to put an alias name for my gross field. Now you see, guys, what am I selecting from database? I'm selecting company name. The same name has to be there in your data structure. Okay, this is your data structure in which the data is going to come. So company name, it should match with this company name. As gross, it should match with the second column gross which you are having here. Remember, this is important. Your structure should match. You're bringing a Mercedes to your house and you have a space only for parking Nano. What will happen? It will somewhere get pinched, correct? So you should have ample amount of space and the structure to hold the data which you're bringing from database. Okay, you're inviting guests at home, you should have ample amount of food for the guests, right? Same thing applies in the DB also. When you're pulling the data, you can get it. Can separate it by use, you can use concatenate. Okay, now I just come down and this is my query part. I save this, we are done. So my query is prepared now. Whatever was there in HANA as it is, I have taken. So the best part is you should go here in HANA console and test it, guys. If this works, it will also work with ADT. You can see it's giving me some results. Come back here. Now this has got me a query prepared. My query variable is ready. The first API which you now have to use is get database connection. As I was telling you, it's possible to run HANA DB as a secondary database. So you should also be able to somehow get the connection for HANA DB, not this default primary DB. So there is new API called get connection API. It's part of CL SQL connection object. There's a method called get connection which you have to call. You can see. And now in this method, you would have this connection name. Can you see connection name? You can find the name of the connections, all the connections which are possible, which are available in the system in dbcon view, or you can also go to DBA cockpit directly. There you can find the name of the connections which are there from your ABAP system to database systems. Okay, and then you can put that connection name over here. Since in our case HANA is not a sidecar scenario, it's a primary database, I don't have to specify this because all my queries, which is read, write, insert, update, whatever I'm firing, anyway is going to my HANA DB by default. I don't have to specify the connection name. But in case your HANA DB is running as a secondary database, as a sidecar scenario, you can provide the name of the connection. Typically, this is configured by basis people where they configured HANA DB with some connection name. And that connection name as a literal you have to specify here in your report program. Is that clear to everyone? What will you do? Okay, so right now we don't have to do anything. If you run it as a sidecar scenario, you have to do that. Okay, then get this object in a variable. So you can declare an inline variable, hello connection object. This is the beauty of new syntax. You don't have to worry about declaring in the type. And now you can use hello connection arrow, a method call. So now the next statement which you're going to call is create statement. This would create a statement object for you. Everything is an object here. Okay, this would create and give you a statement object, data hello statement object. And now once you've got this statement object, with this statement object you will call execute query. Execute query, and in this you will pass your query which you have. Okay, this you pass it here. So you will pass your LV query variable inside this. Once this is done, it will give you basically a handler for result. Okay, so LO result, let's declare that LO result object it will give you. Okay, now guys, remember one point. At this level you may be thinking that the query have been submitted to database for execution. No, this is just preparation for your query. Execute query statement would just keep it ready for execution. It won't send it to database. It is your choice now. Once you prepared your query statement, would you like to give it to database or not? And that is being done in the next statement called next package. Okay, so you will use this result set and call a method called next package, control space. This is the call you have to make, and now actually this query is being sent to database. At this particular point, it sends the query to database. Okay, once it is sending to database, your result have been pulled out. Okay, and the result have been pulled out already, but where will the result come? You did not specify that. Okay, you have to specify that before sending it to database in which container your object will come. Similarly, when you're bringing a new car from showroom, you need to tell the car where is your garage, where will you park that car. So that parking space is nothing but your container, your data container, which is nothing but an internal table here. You will specify. But remember guys, do you know what are all the columns which are going to come here? Do you know what are all the columns which you are going to pull from database? Anyone? Do you know what are all the columns you want to pull? Not always. Not always. You write a query, let's say like this. So right now I'm writing a query where I'm putting the column names. Okay, I know B column company name and gross amount. I'm getting these two columns. But what if I put star? Can anybody of you tell me now what are all the names of the columns it is going to produce? Nobody can tell. Correct? It's dynamic. Whatever is there in database will be pulled out. So as a human who is designing, writing the query itself don't know that what are all the columns which are going to come in the output. Do you think the programming language ABAP will know it? Anybody? Do you think the programming language ABAP will know it? It will not know it. You have decided the container, but sometimes it may happen that your data structure is different. You don't know what is the output data. Point one. Point two. This is a generic API. Generic API mean anybody can use. You can use it for your purpose. I can use it for my purpose. Shilpa can use it for her purpose. Deep can use it for her purpose. Charu can use it for her purpose. It's a generic API. It is for everyone. Everyone can use this API on any table. Remember, you can use it for table, you can use it for analytical view, you can use it for attribute view, you can use it for CDS views, you can use it for calculation views, you can use it for anything, whatever you like. Okay, such a generic API can only be developed when the output structure of it is dynamic. If you say the output is always a company name and sum of gross amount, it will not work for Charu's requirement. It will not work for Deep's requirement. Correct? You have to be sure that this kind of API or this kind of result set, what it is returning you is dynamic. And then that dynamic structure you map it to your requirement. But API will always return you dynamic structure, dynamic data. And in ABAP, we all know the dynamic data is defined using type ref to data statement. Okay, dynamic data is defined using type ref to data statement. At this point, I would like to inform one thing. I will post free complimentary Oops ABAP session on dynamic data type in ABAP in our blog. So please look at that. If you don't know what is dynamic internal table, what is runtime type service in ABAP, I will post free video on Oops ABAP for this, which is covered in my Oops ABAP training in this blog of the training. Please look at that if you don't understand that. It is little advanced ABAP concept. So some of you may not be aware of it. I will put a video in the blog for this. Remember that. Okay. If I don't put it, remind me. Okay. So now I will declare the dynamic data type. I say ty, or I can say dynamic data type ref to data. This is how you create a dynamic data type in ABAP. Always remember, this is what will be output from this generic API. This query statement will always give dynamic data output. Later on in your program, you need to see and corresponding type, you need to map it yourself. But API would never give you a static data type. It cannot. Otherwise, there's no use of API. Okay. Hope all of you understood that what exactly the meaning of dynamic data type, because this API works for every one of us. It treats every one of us equal with equality. So it will give you a generic structure, which is dynamic data type. If you don't understand that, for that, please refer my Oops ABAP video, which I will post in the blog. So here, this is how you declare a dynamic data type in ABAP. This is actually a pointer. It creates a memory, and this dynamic data thing, this name is a pointer to that dynamic memory. Okay, this is a pointer to that memory. So what I will do now is I will tell the system that this is my data, where you can store the data which is being pulled. So I will use once again the result, and I will say store my incoming result to that particular memory location using this handler. Okay, that's what I will do. So control insert and shift insert, copy paste. This is HANA Studio. I realized quite later that I opened ABAP perspective in HANA Studio. This is not ABAP development tools on Eclipse. That's why my control C and control V not working. Okay, I realized it just now. Okay, now come here and just set param table. You have to say. Okay, now if you are getting one line always from DB, you will not use param table. You will use param structure. For structure, you will use struct. Okay, if you're getting a single record from database table, okay, in that case you will use struct. When will you get single record? When you request single record. Let me show you quickly. If in this query, if I would just want a single record, I can say, let's say company name. Once again, I'll just roll it back to sum of gross, and I can say top one row. Okay, this will give you one record all the time in HANA. Okay, I kind of missed it. Let me just show it in another session of HANA perspective. Let me go to HANA perspective and just want one single record from database. In that case, you know that a structure is sufficient. If you're bringing just a nano car, you don't need a space for Mercedes. Okay, it will fit in, but that's unnecessarily you are reducing your house space. So top one row from SNWD. Okay, and which columns you want, star from SNWD underscore SO underscore header table. Just run this. It's going to give you one record, guys. Okay, why it's not working? There is some problem. Schema name, correct. SAP A4H. Now, another interesting thing wanted to show you guys. If you don't want to always put schema name before this, you can use set schema SAP A4H on the top and execute it. Okay, there's a problem in the syntax of our SQL query. Select top one row. I'm not sure. I forgot the syntax, guys. Select one row, select. Okay, select top one. Okay, maybe. No, that's ABAP syntax. So I'll select up to one row. Okay, in HANA it's different, guys. In HANA it's different. Let me quickly do a Google. I forgot completely. I was just using the other day to just select one record from HANA DB. Select top one HANA DB. There's a way actually. Yeah, this is the discussion I was checking out. So select top 5. Okay, there's no row concept here. Select top this from table. Yeah, this seems to be fine. Select top 1. Incorrect syntax from. Cannot find table SNWD underscore SO underscore head. I think this table name is a problem now. Let me just use invoice header table. Okay, works fine. You see one record is coming. So for that, do you need a table to store this? Just need a structure. So in that case, use a structure in your ABAP report. Don't create unnecessarily a table. So in that case, you can say set param struct and put your, but actually it doesn't matter. Everything is a dynamic data. So you would finally get the data in this. So the moment you call next package, guys, what happens? System will fire the query to DB, pulls the data and puts it in this dynamic data structure. Okay, now we say next package, the query is fired, data is retrieved. We can close the connection now. We can say lo underscore result and say close. It's also good practice to close your connection which you have opened with DB, since it's no more required. It's unnecessarily if you keep the connection open. So just close the connection also from DB. This is essential step of cleanup basically. So control insert and then in HANA Studio shift insert for copy paste and to control space, close your DB connection as well once everything is done. And now after this is fired, you can assume that data would have come in your dynamic data. Let's save this and run this much and see in the system whether we are getting the data in our dynamic data structure or not. Okay, let's go to the system and check this out. So I will connect to our system. Okay, come here and just run the same report. Let me come out of this report from here. I go to the SE38 to open this report. Y demo ADBC. I will run it here in the debugger on ABAP and I will show you that it is producing the data as it was producing in HANA. Okay, so let me set up a breakpoint in next package statement. Remember, when the next package is executed, then only the query is sent to the database. Okay, CX parameter invalid was raised, not caught. There is an error which was dump which was been created. And I know this dump is because we have no reference to that pointer. You remember the dynamic data is a pointer and we have actually fired this set parameter table and this pointer is null. If you see, it's initial. This pointer is not pointing to any memory. That's why this dump have been raised. We need to correct this. So let's close this and come to SE38 once again. Go to change. We need to tell now the system the actual data which you can point via this pointer is placed somewhere, and the internal table which you declared LT table is the real memory which this pointer dynamic data can point to. Okay, so that you can do it on the top. You can say get reference of your internal table LT table into this pointer dynamic data. That's it. This was missing part because dynamic data is just a pointer to that memory, and now it will start pointing to that memory. Activate it and we can re-execute it. See the results finally in the system. Dynamic data, and there you can see now it's no more initial. Watch carefully guys, it's 0 right now. The record is 0. Dynamic data, the record is 0. It's pointing now to your structure, exact structure. The moment your next package gets called, you see execute query got executed, still your data didn't populate. The moment next package gets executed, the query is then sent to the DB, pulled the information and maps it to the data structure, executed. You see 38 records have pulled out finally from the database. I can double click. It doesn't show me here because this is just a pointer. It's a reference. Actual data would have come in this table. And that's your values. You can compare 67, 24, 812. Go to HANA. Go here to your query. Execute the query. What's the problem? Gross amount have been ambiguously defined. from this inner join thus on this. This is all fine. Why it's giving me an error? Let me open another HANA session. Sum of gross amount as gross, where it is been defined ambiguously. Can we use dynamic table using field symbol declaration? Yes, you can use that. Absolutely. So there's a question here, can we use in ABAP dynamic internal table using field symbol declaration? You can do that. Select company name, sum of gross as gross from this inner join this group by company name. This is fine. Why it's giving me an error here in HANA? Column ambiguously defined. Okay, I forgot guys. BP dot, and here this is item dot. You can see the data in ABAP debugger 6724.812, 6724.812. That's the data which you're now getting from the query in HANA. Same data you're getting in ABAP. Okay, so that's how you also can do a code push down using ADBC, ABAP database connectivity. You will finally close your connection as part of cleanup step, and it's done. You can just write a printf also using CL demo output class, and then use display data and just pass this dynamic data to this. Let's see if it displays. Okay, no, I have to give my internal table actually, not the reference. Now in that case, get reference is not required. You can see now it's displaying the demo data in the demo output. All the data which is coming from HANA. You can see the query runs much faster as compared to OpenSQL query, because ABAP don't have to pass this query to HANA query, because your ABAP database abstraction layer has to convert this query to HANA query. That's an additional overhead on ABAP system. If you run like this your query, this is also kind of a code push down using ADBC, especially used in cases where you have HANA as a secondary database. Is that clear to everyone? What is ABAP database connectivity? In our next class, I will show you calling our views which we created using ADBC. I will also try to find out the issues which we are facing today in terms of this days in our old report which we have written, and then I will also find the root cause for the issue which we are facing here while calling our analytical view directly in HANA. We will see both approach. With the proxy already we saw consuming these views. I will show you in the next class how to consume the views using ADBC. It's just that now you would replace your query on the views here inside this query section. Instead of this query, you will put the view query, and then it will pull the data required for you. And then we will also move to calculation views, and then consume the calculation view both with the proxy view concept as well as ADBC. And finally we'll start with SQL script concepts. What is SQL script in SAP ABAP on HANA? How does the SQL script helps you to do a code push down in near future? And then we will move to CE function based calculation views, and then we'll talk about database procedures in HANA, and then we'll talk about ABAP database manage AMDPs, ABAP managed data procedures. Then we will look at procedural blocks using procedures. We will move to CDS views and security of CDS views with roles. Then we will move to ALV using CDS view, fuzzy search and smart search in ABAP on HANA. We will move to OVP based creation, or we will create a Fiori app at the end which will use smart controls like an OVP chart using CDS view. So that's all will be will be pending from my side. We hereby complete 50% of our course, and stay tuned for free video on Oops ABAP in our blog. You will learn dynamic data type and runtime type service using that video in our blog. With that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Goodbye.